We have to go. Yes, go fucking where?
What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out, supporting this episode of Raised A Geek. It's been 28 minutes since Tony and Don got out of the theater from seeing 28 years later, and we're here to podcast about it. Long-awaited sequel that brings us back to the world Danny Boyle first unleashed over 2 decades ago. It's bleak, it's brutal, and it's got us talking, and a whole lot of you out there talking. I'm here with Don and Tony. How we doing, guys?
Chris, what is up today, my friend? And Tony, my other friend. Everything is good.
Love it.
Yes, just got out of the theater for
Your
20
fifth movie and fifth
yeah,
movie
fifth-
in like a month.
yeah. Whenever Sinners came out, I saw that on the opening weekend, and since then I've been to the movies 5 times, which seems like a lot. Yeah,
Wait,
I know.
What else have you seen?
Sinners, Thunderbolts,
Oh,
Friendship,
oh,
How to Train Your Dragon. I saw with my nephew, and then now this, so that makes 5.
okay. That makes 4 for me. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
I've gone to the movies more in the past 2 months than I have in the past 5 years.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I know. I mean, is that a good thing? Is that a sign of like it's going to be a good summer for movies? I mean, we're still in early parts of June. There's still a few more that coming that I could see myself going to. I know I already got tickets to Superman. Maybe Fantastic Four. I think I was talking with Chris the other day. F1 looks like something. I don't know how sold I am on Jurassic Park, Jurassic World.
I think I'd see Jurassic World in theaters before I'd see F1 in theaters. F1 I'm excited to see, but it's gonna stream on Max or Apple
Right.
sooner or later.
That leads me into last week we did a warm-up question. I got another one if you guys want to do it.
I'm ready. This thing's gonna be a real barn burner.
All right. So, seeing as how we're just talking about summer movies and blah blah blah. Summer's known for its big time, not necessarily the most award-winning movies, but like the big movies that cost a lot of
Blockbusters.
money, and they call them blockbusters. That's what we've known them for our whole life. So, the question off the top of your head, without even thinking about it too hard, what's been the best experience of a summer blockbuster you've had in your life? In 3, 2, 1.
Twister.
Batman. I don't know if it was summer, but
Batman.
I can remember Michael Keaton's Batman
Mm-hmm.
in Glenwood Theater, and it was packed. People were sitting in the aisles, and it was just a good experience.
Nice.
That's
And
all-
Chris said
I don't know when that was.
1989.
I know that much. I don't know what month.
No, but I don't know the season. I don't know. Yeah, it was probably summer, I'm assuming.
I'm sure it was. Yeah,
It probably was a summer movie. Yeah.
be crazy if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Wait,
Mine was Twister.
I was 7?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
seems,
We were like,
that seems real young for me to be in that movie theater.
You probably were, though. You probably were.
I don't know. All right, sorry, Chris. Twister.
yeah, we watched it at the drive-in during a storm.
That's cool.
We watched literally that whole movie through like windshield wipers, thunder, lightning. Like we watched Twister in a Twister, basically.
That story's always been terrifying to me, but I've also always been a little jealous that I didn't have that experience that you had. I'm like, ugh.
It wasn't like a
Twister.
scary storm. Like it was just like
No.
steady that you could just keep watching. So it almost just felt like an extra ambiance. Like, it was just like raining.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would just have like, it was just a summer storm. So it was like chill, but it just added while you're watching the movie. It just added an extra thing. It's just something I'll always
That's like-
remember.
That's like those stories of when Jaws was a thing where they did it years later where you could watch Jaws on a big screen floating in the ocean on like an inner tube.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't think I could do that. I don't
want
think
that.
that seems very crazy to me. Yeah, I didn't answer at the same time as you guys. It was between because I had time to think about it, so I didn't want to get in there. But for me, it was between two. But I think I finally did land on Jurassic Park, the first one. I just remember, like as a kid, just the hype of that being so crazy to me,
Mhm.
and went and saw it, and it was just like mind blowing to me. Just the everything about it, just the scale, and fucking the first time the T-Rex ate that lawyer, I was scared. I was like, "Whoa, no! What have I done? I don't like this."
Yeah.
But then like nobody else really got killed that crazily, but when he first, I remember when he ate that lawyer. At first, I was like, "This movie's okay for me," but then at that point, I was like, "Oh no, this is not okay for me." But yeah, super fun and super rewatchable still to me to this day.
That's one of those ones where you get lucky, where most theaters will have like oh hey look, on Wednesday nights we're doing throwbacks, and Jurassic Park is usually one of those ones in that rotation. That Wizard of Oz, some older classics, and then some of the newer stuff. Yeah, Jurassic Park would probably be my number two experience if you know what I mean, if I had time to think about it, because that was another really good one for the first time seeing CGI and practical effects used that well together.
Right.
I mean, it's Spielberg, so it was just like, yeah, the movie's awesome.
That
Yeah.
was like the Spielberg movie of our
Yeah, it
generation. Like
was
he came,
RET.
yeah, he
Yeah,
came, he was before us, like E.T. and Jaws, and then he's done some stuff after us that people are like really good. But like when we were in our childhood, that was the Spielberg movie where it was like that's definitive. Yeah.
But
But we saw 28 years later.
there it is. 28 years later, coming 23 years after I think the original.
They were this
They
close.
were this close. Just had to give it 5 more years.
nobody
Uh,
wanted to wait. We waited long enough.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, here, just in case you don't know what 28 years later, it's been almost 3 decades since the rage virus escaped a biological weapons laboratory and now still in a ruthlessly enforced quarantine. Some have found ways to exist amidst the infected. One such group of survivors lives on a small island connected to the mainland by a single heavy defended causeway. When one of the group leaves the island on a mission into the dark heart of the mainland, he discovers secrets, wonders, and horrors that have mutated not only the infected, but the other survivors as well.
Rage,
Rich.
Infected with what?
rage, infected with what?
In it. Do do the whole thing in British.
All
Uh,
right, so this movie here was pretty zombies.
They're not zombies.
oh, let's talk about how that was stated in the movie. Let's talk about. We'll get to that. Let's
Yeah,
talk
and
about.
you guys and okay, I got a couple things. I saw this movie Thursday. So I've already been okay, I've sat here for 3 days reading all of these just complete negative reviews for this movie. And basically how everybody hates this movie is basically what I've like just focused on, right? And what did they say in the beginning of the movie to completely retcon 28 weeks later? Everyone keeps complaining that they basically said, hey, 28 weeks later ended with the zombies invading France, and they wrote that whole thing off in the first line written text on the movie. But I couldn't remember what they said. Do you guys remember what they
Oh,
said in the beginning?
so I didn't rewatch 28 Weeks before this, so I can't remember I didn't even realize that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So there is text in the beginning of this where they talk about how it spread through the UK. In order to do this, they've quarantined off this island and they've done this, that, and the other, and it's a quarantine zone. So,
I think that the text at the beginning of the movie is basically their quick way of telling you this movie is a sequel to 28 Days Later, and we're acting like 28 Weeks Later is not a thing, which was expected because Danny Boyle and Alex Garland made 28 Days Later, and they teamed up again to make this. They didn't make 28 Weeks Later, so they didn't want to incorporate that into the
Right.
thing. I think so. That's just kind of a expected. I didn't really expect 28 Weeks Later to play into this.
it's
So I
got
don't know why that's upsetting to people.
it's got a big following, and I'm just not a fan of the movie 28 Weeks Later, but I do know that it has a big following. Like there's people that love that movie. And I thought it was just meh.
The movie was boring. I watched it last night. It was
It did.
boring. 28 weeks later was so just generic American zombie,
Yeah.
just like
Cash
fluff.
grab.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it really was just a cash grab. Crazy to watch the cast. I mean, it has a stacked cast by today's standards, based on everybody who's in that movie. It was hilarious to see Idris Elba forced to do an American accent in the UK.
Oh, it's funny. I forgot he was even in that.
I did too. I didn't even know
He
until.
does do American accents a lot though.
Yeah,
Does
I
him-
didn't. I mean,
he
it was
does
a
him
long
well.
time.
He's got a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was forever before I even knew he was British. And
Right.
then then I heard him use it more often, and then I got used to it. So now, I could do that. But it was funny when, we're sitting there watching 28 Weeks Later going, he had to use an American accent in England. Like everyone else gets to be British, but him. But
In
yeah,
what's supposed to be a British movie. All right.
it just screamed cash grab. Like I mean, if you're just looking for zombie
Porn.
horror, just zombie whatever, 28 Weeks is fine. 28 Days Later wasn't that. I watched that yesterday as well, and I didn't go into, and that's what I'm curious with you guys, because I'm curious of where expectations ended up falling based on where they were, because you guys both watched 28 Days to prepare for this.
Okay.
Was that a smart move or a bad move?
A quick 3 minute talk about 28 Days Later. So, because that's not what this episode's about.
I know.
It is kind of
I
though.
love 28 Days Later. It's one of my
Mhm.
favorite movies. When it came out, I watched it a handful of times in theaters, bought the DVD, watched it over and over again. I used to watch it a lot. I haven't watched it in 10, 15 years. I watched it 2 days ago, and it's still just absolutely perfect. It's an awesome movie. Maybe I shouldn't have watched it right before I watched the sequel because once again expectations were so high. Same writer, same director. Awesome. We're gonna get what we've always wanted was to find out what happens to Jim and Selena and or at least get another story in this universe that has that similar vibe.
Mhm.
And you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
I didn't get exactly what I thought I was gonna get.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
was that a bad idea? Maybe, but I love that movie so much, so glad I got to
Yeah,
see it.
I'm kind of in agreement, and this kind of gives away what I thought about 28 years later too, because I kind of feel the same way Tony did. I liked it.
Hmm.
I didn't love it. I didn't think it was. Is it the fact that it wasn't great, or is it just the fact that it didn't live up to my expectations? That's the eternal struggle I'm having with it.
Hmm.
Because 28 days later, kind of like Tony said, is just a masterpiece. Probably one of the best, if not one of the best I mean, horror movies ever. It's definitely the best my favorite zombie movie,
Yep.
you know, and horror movie too. Just like, and it has heart and it's funny at times and it's just like a fun adventure. I don't know that I just hadn't watched in a decade either, and just once I started, I was like, oh my God, this feels so good. Like I remember all my same feelings watching this, like all these scenes. Oh my God, this is coming. It looks great. It's just one of those movies that you can just watch and love. Everyone has movies like that. That's one of mine. So maybe it did kind of mess with my viewing experience of this. Not to say it ruined it, but also I can't say it was a bad thing I watched 28 Days Later because I love that movie so much. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, no, I went in, I just was like, it's been 20 years since I watched 28 Days Later, whatever. I'll just go see this new one. As you were talking about legacy sequels, I was like, if it's going to be a legacy sequel, then it's up to them to remind me what happened in 28 Days Later, and I'll watch it after. And I was hoping, but then I still did have expectations, and they didn't meet some of those expectations for me either. I still feel like I did really like this movie for what it had. There is it perfect? No. Did I love it? I don't think so. There's been times in which I felt like there were aspects of it that I really did, but then there are other things that hold it back. So, I mean, and then also the fact that it's part one ultimately comes back around where it's like it's not a finished movie, so that makes it harder. And I didn't necessarily, I knew that going into it, but didn't know it was going to be that like this one really not have an ending and almost have a cliffhanger of an ending.
Hmm.
um, I wasn't expecting that. So there are a lot of things that I think made my expectations, kind of hurt my
Well,
hurt my feelings.
you watched 28 Days Later after you saw
Yeah.
this. So then after you watched it, what did you feel about the movie after you'd seen 28 Days Later? He's like, man, that was a better film, or it was like, oh, that did
I
lead into it right or something.
Watching 28 Days Later after 28 years later, I feel like was the better way to do it. Um it still was like, yeah, this is the best. Everything else is going to be worse than this one. And that was my thought. But going into it, it kind of helped me realize that like 28 years later is similar in a lot of ways. Like it's not like Weeks, it's not a zombie movie, but 28 Days Later wasn't a zombie movie. It was the infected running around, and it was following Jim, it was following Selena, it was following Frank, like it was following family, you were following people. You kind of had this other story about the horribleness that men do, and or just man, not men specifically, even though they were all men in that one. But I felt like they had hit a lot of the same beats, where they were a more similar movie than I thought they were coming out of 28 years later. So I kind of enjoyed watching them backwards like that and going back. It still made me wish that we got Jim in this one in 28 years later, and it just really had a little bit more of a sequel. It definitely felt like if you didn't watch any of the 28 days or weeks, you missed nothing going into this movie. Like I
So
didn't really feel
far.
like they were
Yeah.
connected in any way as of right now.
Yeah. I'm sure in the sequel it will be, but yeah, for this
Because
one.
I think it's been confirmed that Killian Murphy is in this story. He's probably in the
Yeah.
next one. But him, yeah, being absent from this first one, you could have went and saw this and never. Some people probably went and saw this and don't even know that 28 Days Later is a movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
General public people.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you don't even know that. What was fun to watch it after the fact was the little things about like some of the shots being redone, like in 28 years later when they were walking in the wilderness and you saw like the three wind turbines all rusted and stuff. Well, you watch Jim and them drive by the street and you had all those wind turbines
Yeah.
spinning. Um, there was one part where we were wondering because for a large chunk of that movie, Jim's walking around in a tracksuit. So, Jimmy's tracksuits.
On that wall when it said Jimmy's, when it was painted, there was like a message, and
Mm.
then somebody added Jimmy's to it. I was like, is this how they're gonna bring in Jim? Is he going by Jimmy now? I was like, no, they're not doing it that way.
is he the leader of this gang? No.
Yeah, I don't think so, but it's weird that they're all named Jim and Jimmy, like, but yeah, it was like fun stuff like that. I think seeing those Easter eggs after the fact. But yeah, if I would have watched them the other way around, it probably would have been the same thing. I would have just caught them in the right order. So we talked about the expectations. Where do you guys want to go with this conversation? I would tell you right now that scene where they were being chased on the causeway was one of the coolest scenes I think I've seen in a long time.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
I want to talk about something super cool.
You got something super cool?
No,
No,
yeah,
that was really
I loved
well.
that causeway scene with the aurora borealis over the top of them being chased. I don't really know exactly the best way to talk about this. Um,
No, I don't want to make it seem like everything about this I didn't enjoy.
It
I
wasn't. I mean,
it was enjoyable. It's
yeah,
just my issue I'm having with it is just my expectation
yeah.
level
yeah,
was
So
sky high just because I expected so much out of a sequel to 28 Days Later from the same director and the same writer.
here
Now,
we could start at the beginning. The
yeah,
opening scene was awesome and violent and crazy,
yeah,
Mhm.
and it had a similar vibe to the original.
yeah, yeah. With
And
the
then
kids,
and then we
yeah, the
realized
rage.
that was actually in the same time as 28 Days Later,
Yes,
basically. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So then why did the vibe shift so hard? I feel like it just had a completely different feel than I was expecting
yeah.
from the original to this one.
Well, because then it was
This movie was focused on a Scottish island, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't Britain like the first movie. It was like this is the story about someplace different. Same universe, but someplace different.
Yeah.
Now, if it was another movie based in the same area, Jim and Selena were running around in the city, you know what I mean? Maybe it would have felt different, but they decided same world, 28 years have gone by. The infection is now contained to this area. Uh,
basically to the UK. The UK, that whole island is
right.
basically a heavily, I would say blocked, but like heavily enforced quarantine zone.
It's quarantined,
No one
right?
is allowed in, no one is allowed out. That just they just contained the virus there for the last 28 years. And this movie, I think, to answer your question, I think with the tone and why it shifted so hard was because it's been 28 years. So it's like this whole island is its own ecosystem of,
Oh no, I get
like,
that.
yeah, it
I
just
get
shifted. It's
that.
the immediacy of the rage virus, like in both weeks and days, was like shit was happening right then. It was
Right.
live. This is like I said, 28 years.
Oh yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. Maybe it's just like the general. Maybe it's just the general vibe or the
Yeah.
cinematography or, like, obviously the first one was shot super grainy, which led to the texture of the film and something with that. But like, his use of reflections in the first one was awesome, and the pacing just seemed great, even in the slow periods of it. It was just done really, really well. Where this one, I was just like, all right. And I'll say that it's another thing with like CGI where it's like the first one there was like nothing CGI. It was
Right.
all practical. Where this one was kind of like, all right, I get it. It's faster and easier and cheaper to do it this way. So it's a little different. I don't know. I liked it. I've just got some gripes with it here and there where it's like um 28 years for a species to evolve the way that the infected have evolved is kind of like to me. What do they call the little blobby roller things? The slow rolls?
Did they say that? I don't remember. The
Yeah.
What
ones that were crawling around,
what's that all about?
Bloaters.
Yeah, what's
the big
what
fats.
how is that a big how is that a thing?
Yeah.
Um and they mentioned that the virus attacks people like steroids or something. So they tried to explain it a little bit.
Hmm.
Um but I don't know. You guys go because I'm gonna start just nitpicking little things here and there.
No, it's
There was a
it's
lot that I
okay.
enjoyed about it. You know what I mean? Some of the action was really good. The acting was good across the board. I liked everybody in it.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson was great.
Yeah.
Jodie Comer was great. Even the kid, I think he's on that adolescent show on Netflix,
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he
which I
was
didn't watch.
outstanding. Like he carried that movie way more
Yeah.
than I expected him to.
And Ralph Fiennes doesn't come into the third act, but he was really good. Rafe Fiennes, he's
Yeah.
really good in his
Yeah,
role.
he was awesome.
Um,
But yeah, but basically this movie was set into, I guess you can maybe chop it up into half. You can chop it in half, and you kind of have the first half, which was learning about the people on this who have this island, and you have uh I can't think of his name now. Aaron, what was his character name?
Dad.
the dad.
Dad. You have a dad and a kid, and the dad wants to take his son basically to the island where the infected are as a rite of passage.
Well,
And
that first half gives heavy like uh caretaker and up and coming of age horror thing,
yeah,
which happens a lot, which we're used to a lot. The Last of Us, Logan, Lone Wolf and Cub. It's all
Yeah.
that same. People love going back to that, but it's a tried and true method
yeah,
for movies like this, like the older person teaching the younger person how to
It's a good
survive.
trope. We enjoy that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
I like that. I'm fine with that. Keep
yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was like, hey, I'm gonna bring you here, and then shit hits the fan, when they're basically stumble into a horde. That's when we're introduced to the alphas, which were basically, like you said, the steroid species of these infected who basically ran their own group, sect,
Gang.
gang of infected.
Th-
Something about Alpha in this doesn't sit right with me
yeah.
still a little bit. Um,
That's
it
that's
just feels it just feels I get it in other things like they make them smarter as they evolve in the but something about the 28 something universe feels wrong after watching the first one that there's like they can't be smart, they're just mindless runners. They
right.
should all just be mindless runners, not one who can like plan and wait back and wait and like decide that he's gonna do things for a purpose and
Well,
know that he's ripping skulls and spines out for a reason. Like, no, I just want mindless infected in this world for some reason. I don't know why. I don't
see,
know
but
why.
they weren't mindless in the. I mean, definitely in weeks they weren't mindless because one dude was following his kids around.
Weeks doesn't
Any yeah,
exist.
anything you say about weeks, I'm not gonna understand because that doesn't match up to me.
But yeah, I always felt that was the whole point of them not being zombies and being infected was that they have uncontrollable rage, but they're still people. They're still in there. They're not mindless. They
But
See, I
still
what
feel
have
like I,
what
I
where
feel like some zombie movies have had that, and Shaun of the Dead did it very well with almost every zombie in it had qualities that they had before.
yeah.
But it was a comedy and it was funny and it was
Yeah.
charming. Whereas this, yeah, I have the same issue. When as soon as they said, "Oh my God, it's an alpha," and I was like, "The fuck? What? What? You got someone who's like a leader now,
yeah,
and apparently they're boning, like the infected are breeding."
they had to have because the one was pregnant.
But I just assumed she was pregnant before and got turned being pregnant.
But how would she?
This is gonna sound
Maybe.
terrible. I hope that's how it went down. I hope she got bit pregnant.
I don't.
Um,
I don't know. I just can't. If this is a direct legacy sequel to 28 Days Later, I just don't remember any infected in 28 Days Later being like able to reason or
No, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't even know if they reasoned in this one enough. I mean, we can go all the way back to they said at the end of 28 or 28. I was going to say 28 weeks later, but I mean, they said they all starved after 5 weeks. So, like, they never really explained how they still even exist on this island, why they still even needed a quarantine.
well, if they're eating the deer and eating this or whatever, you know what I mean? But for 28 years, yeah, I don't,
there's
Yeah,
food source.
yeah,
yeah,
I
I
don't know. And
didn't.
how are those big old tubbos eating so much? Why are they
Why are they
like,
fat?
why are they sluggies? And they're just
Well,
eating
and
worms?
there were little kids of those too. So yeah,
Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, wait, they had bait. That was before they even showed the pregnant one. I was like, did those ones? That's a family. That one was a
once
family.
again, I never put the idea of them. Now, I'm not going to say if you want to really make this like an ecosystem, like they are evolution and they're still keeping stuff going, then yeah, them finding a way to do their thing, whatever. But yes, I agree with you. I didn't need any of that. It didn't, none of it bothered me. Like I was just there. They were like, "Oh, there's an alpha," and he was just standing creepy on top of a hill, and I was like, "Oh, fuck."
No, I mean
So
the
I was
alpha
just
did
there for it.
the alpha did cool things like chase him down through the train
Yeah.
and on the causeway and had the huge dong flopping around. But
Love it.
like, uh, I guess I could be okay with the alpha thing if unless I think about it too hard. But the thing I can't be okay with them being smart and reasoning is the damn birthing scene where she like reached out her hands for support. Like, help me have this baby. What? No. You would kill
Like,
that lady immediately. Like, what is
right.
this?
Your
I
maternal
didn't
instincts took over your rage
yeah, I
People
to
do
didn't
that to animals all the time.
help the birthing process.
They
What?
help save animals. And they let them.
I don't know. That
And
part
then,
just kind of
I don't know any animal that's a murder rager.
well,
Okay, a crocodile. If a crocodile was birthing and you went like this to it, guarantee you're losing fingers.
that
right.
specific, yes, that specific
I'm
thing.
just saying,
But that's what
a
the
bear's
infected are.
birthing
They're
and you go like this to the bear, you're gonna die.
yeah, they're killers.
If you do it
They
to a
they should
cow, okay, a cow is herbivore. It's probably not gonna try to rip your face off. Um, I don't know, man. There was just and like, do you remember how Donald used to always think the baby from which Day of the Day of the Dead remake with Ving Rhames?
Oh
in the
yeah.
mall. Yeah.
Whenever that baby got born, Donald's and it's not real, but Donald's recollection is that baby gets born and just goes. "Bah." So as soon as that baby got born in this movie, rest of the movie, all I could think about was Don going. "Bah." I just kept thinking about it because, like, I don't know, man. Zombie giving birth. It's funny that it's like, oh, that in my eyes, that's the unbelievable part, not the fact that there's zombies or an infection or whatever, all this chaos, but it's when they start having babies. So I don't know why they went with that. I feel like that's like I don't know. I think that's
It was a weird choice. It didn't kill the movie for me or anything. I just thought it was a weird choice to have like have it be have a moment of togetherness between a human and an infected. Like
Yeah.
never in 28 days later would I ever imagine a moment between an infected and a human. No, they're just we kill them because they're gonna kill us. Not, oh, just reach out your hands and maybe you can help it. Help it? Kill this motherfucker. I don't give a shit.
And speaking of, it was in that scene or shortly after that uh was he from Switzerland, the army
Yeah.
kid that they met up with?
Sweden.
The
Sweden.
Sweden kid, where he was like, put it down, I gotta kill it. And they're like, it's a baby. He's like, it's a zombie. And I was like, oh, they said okay, they said zombie.
Yeah.
They straight up called it out. So that was new too that I wasn't expecting because I think the argument a long time ago was that Danny Boyle always said it's not a zombie movie, it's an infection movie. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So the fact that they went ahead and said it was like, I don't know if that was a nod to the fans to say, yes, we're admitting this is zombies.
No, I don't think it's that deep. I think it's the fact that
Or,
the whole world was still going, so the world is calling it Zombie Island. That's what we would call it. Even if it was an infection, they wouldn't be zombies, but that's what the whole world would be calling it.
but isn't it the whole thing in zombie movies, in a zombie movie, that zombie movies don't exist? Like the Z word isn't usually said.
Yeah, they're either walkers or
Right. It's like
infected
yeah,
or
it's like in Night of the Living Dead, in World War Z, Night of the Living Dead doesn't exist. The movie, you know what I mean? Like it's like
right.
it, it's that universe. It's not there. So, I did like that those guys did show up, and it did confirm that the rest of the world is going on as normal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was confusing as hell. Like when he started talking about being a delivery driver and he was like, you buy stuff online. And I'm like, 2002, we weren't buying shit online and having stuff. And I was like, how did this, like, if the world ended and I was getting real confused with the timing things. And then I was like, wait. And he was like, oh, yeah, I shouldn't have joined the military. And the more he talked, I was like, wait, is the rest of the world fine? And then he pulled out his phone. I was like, yup, the rest of the world's fine. Okay, this is where we went. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of this movie, I'll say, is that they verified, and that brought me back, maybe because I just saw the original, that moment when Jim looks up and sees the jet, and he's remembering the guy saying this is what they do, they would quarantine,
Yeah.
and it just confirmed it like everything else is going on as normal.
Yeah.
And we've been quarantined and we're stuck. So that was really cool. I liked how they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. This was our world.
Yeah.
But if there were no zombies in their little community, which not zombies, infected, there's no infected in their little community they had, why wouldn't the rest of the world come save them and bring them back to someplace
It,
safe?
It's
Spot.
further in. Maybe it's part of the full
it's
quarantine.
too big of a risk. It's a quarantine. They can't risk letting it out.
I guess.
So
Yeah.
the world just turned their back on it and just said, that's
Yeah, because
good luck.
that little kid has lived his whole life in there. He doesn't know what the internet is. He doesn't know what a phone is. He
Yeah.
doesn't know what, any of that stuff is.
Yeah. They just grew up there. And that's where there's so many different things that I know, like reading complaints with this movie of people just not fully grasping that aspect of like there's things that kid did, the coming of age thing. I kept getting mad hearing about people complaining about him being able to shoot a bow and arrow 1 second and not. I'm like, yeah, he was scared shitless
Right.
in the beginning. He couldn't
His
shoot a bow
hands
and
were
arrow.
shaking.
He was always good at shooting a bow and arrow. He just had to grow up. Like that kid was forced to grow up across this movie. Like
Yeah.
he was a completely different kid by the end of this movie compared to where he was when his dad took him out in the beginning.
And it's not like they made him a deadeye that didn't miss every single shot that he or
Right.
that hit a headshot every time he shot. He was still
Right.
no, it was like it was normal. So I didn't even people were complaining about that. That was
Yeah.
their gripe.
Oh God, I was reading the amount of complaints over things that I think people just didn't get. I mean, so much just seemed like it went over so many people's
Yeah.
heads of just little things. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the same similar things that people could go back and forth on. A lot of it was just people wanted everybody's that said the first 45 minutes were amazing and then the movie went down. And then by the time you hit the ending, everybody completely like just checked out. That ending worked for no one ultimately.
I mean, you could look at it as a really tight bookend. It starts with that blonde kid and it ends with that blonde kid. Like,
Mhm.
It was I mean, I'm not gonna say it was a bad. If we want to go back to the ending, and then we could talk about everything as a
Mhm.
whole or whatever if we want. But I don't think it was a bad ending. It was a little shocking, or not
It was
shocking, but
jarring.
Yeah,
it felt out of place. It felt like now feel like I'm watching something different.
it was a completely it's like a different movie started. That's
Yeah.
what it
Yeah,
was.
or kind of.
And I liked it, but it wasn't what I had been watching the
No.
first hour and 50 minutes.
It made me go, "Oh shit." Like whatever they do next
Dude, it
is
was.
going to be wild.
And I get it because, like, I think they even had the sounds of the Teletubbies playing while they were jumping around and
Yeah, and they
shit.
counted just like they did in the beginning. One,
W-
two, three,
Right.
four. I mean, they were reenacting. So
But dude, that looked like a Power Ranger episode.
yeah,
Like as
That's what people are saying.
soon as they jumped in
Colorful.
and started fighting, it was like, dude, this looks like a goddamn Power Ranger episode.
hmm
It was it was
I don't.
something.
To me, that just those quick cuts and doing that weird shit just felt like a British movie to me. Like I was just like, yeah, okay, this British people being weird.
But like he wasn't weird like that throughout the entire movie or
Who
28
wasn't?
days later.
Right.
Oh,
Danny Boyle. I'm just
yeah,
saying it
Right.
was like it was this weird, it was a very out of place touch addition to the movie, a
yeah,
weird way to end it. Like if a group is going to come in and save the kid at the end, it just felt like that was the weirdest possible way to do it.
yes.
And I'm okay with it because tell your story, man. Tell me what you want. Like
Well,
you guys.
that's the thing. Like if you were able to buy into everything up until that point,
Mhm.
and you were like, "There's a next one coming," and you know it, and you're like, "Oh shit!" Like I can see that hitting. But when you had so many people check out for the like back third of this movie, and then you get throw that at them, it's just like get the fuck out of here. Is ultimately, I think it just didn't. I think it could have worked if everybody dug everything else that you did, but nobody seemed to.
Why I don't follow why people didn't love the third act. I mean, once
No,
we're talking about
once
mostly from when Ray Fiennes got introduced. From that point on,
no,
people kind of didn't
just
like.
once they go back, it seemed like everybody liked up until that causeway chase. So once Dad and Spike made it back, and then
Yeah,
Spike found out his dad was, not who he thought he was, not the perfect image, and he learned, his dad was dealing with his wife dying in his own ways, and they did that whole party thing. And then once Spike kind of was like, I'm taking mom, he finds out that there's a doctor out there. I feel like this, he's being a 12-year-old kid who wants to save his mom. And once he goes out to his mom, that most people checked out of the movie at that point. Everything that happened after that, they were just like, this is stupid.
I enjoyed that part too.
Yeah,
yeah. Oh well,
It's
I don't know. I
like the
don't know
stuff
why.
that we've mentioned that I haven't liked, but as a whole, like I enjoyed the rest of it.
the story I like the
Ray
story that
Fiennes
they
was
put in this movie.
awesome.
The
His
what?
whole character, Ray Fiennes' character was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I was so glad they didn't make him be crazy. I was nervous that they were going to make him be the crazy doctor. And
yeah,
I liked that he was, and even this whole movie, I can tell you, and once again, it could be an expectation thing, but I sat there this whole movie watching this, waiting for horrible things to happen. And I literally sat there with like this sense of dread the whole time because I'm just like, something bad is going to happen to somebody somewhere. So everything that happened, I was kind of like tense. So maybe that's why some of those things, like the alphas come out, I'm just like, that looks fucked up. I don't know how to feel about that. That's not going to be good. And they just kept showing all these things, and I just sat there. So I kept waiting for like Ralph Fiennes to like turn
Be,
on them somehow, like
be the bad
be
guy.
the bad guy. I kept waiting for this, and I'm like, wait, is he tricking her? Is he like doing? Is he telling her the right thing? Like, and of course, none of that was true. And I was so glad that they let that all be, kind of a beautiful moment.
as normal and beautiful as it can be for somebody who's building giant skull pillars,
Yeah.
Right.
which you could say is weird, but he has a good explanation for it. But also a little weird that he's out there boiling skulls. Other than that, seems like he still has his fucking doctor chops. Yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like
He
full
was able
blown.
to diagnose her real illness very
Yeah,
quick.
full
Yeah.
blown Dr. Kevorkian, a little diagnosing and helping her pass nicely at her moment with her son.
And very quickly. They had that clean skull
I know.
very quick.
That was fast.
It was real fast. That was something. Then that's where I kept sitting there like, this is gonna turn. This is gonna turn because like he just like took her away and then just came back like
With her skull.
with her skull, and I was like, oh shit. And then they
Yeah.
just never went there, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad that they didn't, but I had that like sense of dread waiting for the shoe to drop, basically. Um,
I
but
don't
no, I thought the whole journey with his mother. I know there were a lot of people complaining about just the fact that she allowed her son to go on that journey when she already knew she was dying. I'm like, that's
she was half out of her mind for most of the beginning of
yeah,
it,
yeah.
you
The
know.
she,
She didn't know that she was out there until she came to and was like, "What are we doing out here? Where's your dad?"
Right.
yeah, when with Eric,
Yeah, and yeah, she was like, she came to her senses or came out of one of her, spells.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I was trying to think of his name. I couldn't think of the other like major British director that last little segment reminded me of was. Do you guys ever see The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie?
hmm
That's what that last Power Ranger part reminds me of. Is like, oh, this kind of reminds me of that music video in The Gentleman that the
Uh,
kids at the boxing gym made of
Oh
them
yeah, yeah,
dancing
yeah,
and
yeah.
stealing the weed. And I was like, it's got that vibe. When you kept saying it was very British, I'm like, what director does that remind me of? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
like
Danny Boyle called Guy Ritchie and said, "Hey, you want to do these last 5 minutes? We're
Yeah,
gonna go ahead and just let you do
yeah,
this."
let me call Edgar Wright real quick and get some of
Right,
his
right.
yeah,
sensibilities.
it just felt with that zaniness, that out of
Yeah.
left field, quick cuts, just like it just has a different vibe to it. And when you watched enough like Guy Ritchie flicks and like you said, Edgar Wright, you watch some of their older stuff, they all have those kind of manic moments of just insanity and you're like and it doesn't always make sense and it doesn't always work but you're just kind of like that's just what they do and you have to kind of like roll your eyes like oh god it's this scene but yeah, it's just I don't know. It just didn't.
It's just that 28 days later had nothing even close to that feel.
No, yeah. The more you keep saying that, like compare this to 28 days, then it's yes, it gets further and further. Like I'm like, okay, yeah, the idea of picturing like just watching 20 days later, picturing an alpha doing anything in that world doesn't make any sense. Like I said, the more you kind of compare the two, so I'm trying not to do
If it
that.
would have just felt like the moment in 28 days later when Jim comes back in the rain and he starts just cranking that thing to make
Yeah.
the alarm go off, everything from that point until the end of the movie was just like, ah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like if they could have tapped into that feeling
Fuck,
somehow
it's
for
so
this
good.
ending.
It's the
Uh,
first movie's so good, man. It was like, and I also wanted one of those hands-on moments, and really there wasn't what this movie didn't have that the first one had was that man-on-man human violence. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
um, that was the bigger story of the first one, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And maybe that'll happen towards the second one. Maybe
Well, I mean,
humans.
I would imagine because we had the body hung upside down that they found that had Jimmy carved across his body. So the
Yeah.
Jimmies are hanging people upside down, and they hung the infected at the end. So they're doing something against people, and they're not ashamed, unless it wasn't a person.
They might just be doing it to infected.
They
I
could
still
be.
don't know.
They could be. I don't know if it's going to be
They're
man
out
on
of
man.
control, or they're out of control and the bad guys. And Jim has to come back, and Aaron Taylor Johnson has to go find his son, and they all have to fucking team up to save the boy. Uh,
Selena, wait.
That was the other thing that
Wait for
bothered
me.
me was when people were complaining that Aaron Taylor Johnson didn't care about his kid. They're like, why didn't he try to go get him? And I'm like, they wouldn't let him leave. They told you that in the beginning that they couldn't. And soon as he realized his kid was alive, he was out those doors trying to go. Like that was super
Right.
thing. But people were just like completely hating on that too, that he was a bad dad for not trying to get his kid. I'm like, they weren't going to let him out those doors.
Right. And then yeah,
He had his first half of the movie, and the second half of the movie was about the mom
yeah.
Yeah.
and the doctor.
No, I've read a lot of
And
shitty reviews.
I've sat here and said, said my piece about the things that didn't work, but a lot of this movie did work too.
hmm
Some of the stylistic choices with the action scenes were brilliant, I think.
Yeah.
Like the just Danny Boyle's sensibility of like quick camera shots when they were getting shot with arrows, and like that felt like 28 days later to me. Just like stuff like that, like the quick pauses. You know what I mean? The arrow goes through and it's like a quick pause and it's back,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
chase scene through the house and a lot of the
Oh
shots
yeah.
where it would go where the it would go red and you'd see a lot of infected like looking
Oh
straight at
yeah.
the screen or ripping up a deer or doing whatever. Like those shots were all great. So a lot of the choices like cinematography and
Yeah.
choices, the script that Garland and Boyle put together was really good. It's just
Yeah. And
my
here's
thing is expectations, but other than that, like if
yeah.
I look at it as its own thing, I was like wasn't a badly made movie by any means.
No, and here's something that I was just thinking about. Like the original budget for the first one was 8 million.
Hmm.
I don't
Right.
know what the budget for this one is. I'm sure it was astronomical compared to that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think it
sure.
was I think it was
No,
only like 50 or 60.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
still, no studio is gonna say, yeah, go ahead and make it super. Do all these weird camera shots and do whatever like you did with the first one. They're not gonna even let them do something like that,
Hmm.
or make
Right.
it grainy, or do it like, hey, look, we're gonna do this guerrilla style with these cheaper cameras, and it's like, no, no,
They
you're not. You're
they filmed
gonna.
most of this movie with iPhones.
I was
Did
gonna
they
say
really?
I
Yeah,
saw
there's
that rig with all those iPhones around
No
them.
shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
they did do a lot. Now they're using iPhones with like
All
Yeah,
kinds of
crazy lens
software on it.
attachments
yeah.
and like but yeah, they had some crazy rig that was like 180 degrees with like iPhone, and that's how they did those shots with the pause because then they were able to like basically do a full like half circle around them and then they could
Mhm.
stylize it, which was kind of cool. But yeah, they did do a lot with what they could to try to capture that feel but had a bigger like everything still needed to be bigger and that was kind of I think what they for better or worse
When it
hurt
worked,
it
it
or
worked.
helped it worked
Yeah.
and didn't at the same time
Yeah.
because if you just watch this movie and don't think about 28 days later this is a solid zombie emotional I mean I guess depending on what you want out of your zombies.
Yeah, like standalone, no predecessor. It's probably pretty good, except for that last scene that is still jarring no matter what,
That yeah
because
there's
it's
no
a
getting
different
around
vibe.
that.
But like, yeah, would the alphas had bothered me if this wasn't a 28 Days Later film? Probably not. I would have been like,
Yeah.
okay, it's a zombie movie with a leader.
Leader.
We've seen
Yeah.
that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's different types of zombies. Oh, hello, Last of Us. We've seen that before.
Oh
Did
shit
it?
these zombies are fucking.
Right. It's like we've seen shit like that before. So,
I love every Resident Evil game, and every Resident Evil game has a leader zombie at
right.
some point. You
Right.
know.
I think it's just that first one just seems so pure and perfect where it's like, what are you doing changing the format, guys? Knock
Yeah.
it off. That and yeah, I didn't care for the family aspect of those roly-poly ones. And I think it was the alpha's baby because that's why he was coming after them still. And on the train, he stopped and looked at the dead one infected that was just pregnant.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that was his baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that, but
Yeah.
talking about it afterwards, I was like, I guess it could be. I just didn't. I just assumed he was rage, you know. Like you said, he saw people, so he was going to charge him down. He didn't give a fuck. But
Same way that that rage-filled pregnant infected lady should have attacked her instead of holding her hands.
Help me! Help me!
she was
Um,
scared, guys.
look, she's in a lot of pain.
Sure.
I get it. She did try to murder them directly after.
Yeah,
So
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
say that.
yeah. There was no, and that's where my analogy comes with like helping a dog. You know, you help a feral animal. When they realize you're there to help them, they let you, but then they're like either going to run away or they're going to attack you. But they'll still let you help them. I helped a squirrel get out of the pool. That squirrel ran away from me and didn't stop and thank me, but we worked
Mhm.
together as a team to get out of the pool. But when he got out, he ran away from me.
You need to fight him.
He would
Yeah,
have bit you without a second thought.
he would have bit me without a second thought, but I still helped him. He still let me help him. Once he realized I was there to help him, he let me, and we worked together. It was a very magical moment, and then he ran away.
My friend Rena I used to bartend with. A baby squirrel came up to me outside the bar, and he was like kind of injured and lost, and She got off and came out and was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And I showed her. I'm like, "I gotta get in." I'm like, "Are you good out here?" She's like, "Yeah, I'll figure out what to do." And after my shift, she was still outside with it. I'm like, "What the hell?" So she took it home. She raised this thing. She got a cage for it, like a massive cage. And then one day she came to work and just had fucking scratches all over. And I was like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "Yeah, he turned on me." And I was like, "Well, what did you do?" She's like, "Well, I can't release him because I've started to domesticate him." I'm like, "No, no, you haven't." Yeah, she eventually found some sanctuary that took him and got him back into the wild somehow. But it's like, look, she raised him from when he was a baby and he turned on her.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Sounds like that squirrel had rage.
Ugh.
rage.
But yeah, another funny thing that I saw was someone was super mad. I read this giant thing. Someone was super mad at the disrespect that was given to Eric. And they said because they brought Eric's skull out and the kid just placed the skull wherever on the tower. But when the kid got his mom's skull, he took her all the way to the top. What did she do to deserve to be put on the top? I hope other people are as morally outraged as I am. And I'm like, I hope you're kidding, man,
That
because
has to be a troll or
it
something.
has to be.
That's
As I'm saying
ridiculous.
it out loud, I'm like, I really hope he was trolling because like it was a long ass post, and I sat there and read that whole thing of just outrage that
You
that
shouldn't
kid
have read
put
that.
his mom's skull on the top of the tower.
Yeah, that's a weird criticism.
Yeah.
The internet's trash.
The Eric character was like whatever. I mean that was their attempt to get humor into the
Yeah.
movie
It worked.
finally. I think did it though. I didn't laugh at any of it. Like
No,
the
I smirked at it because it
Yeah.
was like, oh, I was like, okay, go ahead, Don.
I was gonna say the humor aspect of the first one was not met in this one. I don't think. I think Eric was put in there to try to get that feeling, but I just subtle laughter in the first one I had so many times, like just comments from Jim, like
Hmm.
we don't have any cheeseburgers,
One of
or
the best ones.
we can eat this raw, or I can yeah you can eat that raw,
Yeah.
or just like I don't think you'd give a shit. Like just his little
Yeah.
one-liners is like oh that's clever and funny, and like Eric was just like I don't know trying to get that
It
feeling, but
was it was more of what works for comic relief in 2025.
And
yeah
like I was able to smirk at that. And Don, I don't even know if you smirked, but I know both of us were annoyed with the row of children in front of us and
yeah
that one couple that were like, they thought you would have thought that fucking Bill Burr or somebody had wrote the dialogue for this because they were like
every
like
everything he
hard
said.
loud laughing at those lines. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
That is extremely wild.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Talking amongst yourselves at movie theaters is still a problem though, and we're not going to get into it, but just people annoying.
If you're
Man.
listening, stop it.
Stop doing that.
I'm not
Just
going to do it either. Don did six loud fake coughs to get people to stop. He's like, oh,
just be quiet for 2 hours. It's not hard.
right.
Just you don't have to talk to people for 2 hours when you go to the movies. Just stop talking.
Old
Just
lady
stop.
was unwrapping the same piece of candy for what felt like 10 minutes. Just open it.
Do you need help?
Right.
Just open it. Get it over with.
So now in January is 28 years later, The Boneyard.
Is that when it is?
January. Yeah. So it's done. It's already there. What sucks about this whole thing is I haven't looked to see if this made any money or where it's at. But with the reception that I feel like it's getting, unless I'm just the algorithms just got me and they're just the internet's just showing me negativity. I don't think the Boneyard's going to perform nearly as well as this one did, which means we might not get the finale.
Is there
Why is it?
supposed to be another
It's
one?
supposed to be it's supposed to be a trilogy, and they were supposed to do three movies. They already finished the second one, and already supposedly at CinemaCon this year we're actually showing footage for it, which supposedly was said to look awesome. Now a lot of people complained about the marketing of this one, saying the trailer made it look like a completely different movie than what we ended up getting, and there was a whole thing about that as well. So I mean, they could show a couple cool scenes and make you think you're going to get one thing but get something different. But yeah, the third movie hasn't been made. They're debating on waiting on the performance of one and two before they do three.
I think I don't know if it's the algorithm you fell into or you're seeing all negative, but I was seeing a lot of positive things that I was trying to ignore. And then but so then now after seeing it, I did just glance at stuff. There are a lot of people like this movie a lot.
Okay.
Uh, some people think the ending is amazing and no one understands it, and that they should appreciate it, and that it's completely original and unique and
Mhm.
like fun. And
Yeah.
they're like, people who didn't like that ending, you just fucking want to bitch.
Well,
So
and it got
I think there's a section of people who really enjoy this movie, and I think they already did make their money back on like the
that's good.
production cost. So anything beyond that is just profit. So I don't know. We'll see.
I've avoided seeing any reviews on because this is probably in my lifetime the most anticipated sequel that I've always wanted or
One
would
of
have been
them,
like
right?
okay with them making.
Yeah.
Um, if John Carpenter decided he was going to do Big Trouble in Little China with Kurt Russell, I'd be there for that too because I always wanted to know what happened for Jack Burton after that.
Yeah.
You know. Besides that, this is probably the only other thing where I've been like, dude, I am okay. I want to know what happens next. Please make
Right.
another one. Um, so I was excited about it. My whole point, I've been avoiding the internet like crazy until I saw this. The one thing I glanced at was, oh my God, it's scoring a 9 on whatever, a 9 out of 10 on something. And people were losing their minds about how highly rated it was. I don't know if that was marketing. I don't know if that
One
was.
critics have it's like a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics. It's like 60 for audience.
Gotcha.
So it's one of those ones where the critics are like super high and everyone's accusing it of being bots, saying there's
I
no
mean,
way people like this movie.
I'd probably only
And I'm like,
rate
I
it.
liked it.
I liked it, but like, would you rate it higher than an 80 or 85?
I'd
No,
probably be
I
right around there.
probably
Right.
somewhere in there. I gave it 4 stars on Letterbox. I really liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it more than just your average movie. There were a lot of things I felt emotionally invested in a lot of things. I sat next to Chrissy, who was like openly sobbing for a large chunk of it, um, with his mom and doing that. So I was emotionally invested with her sitting there being that emotionally invested in the movie. It was more than I expected. But yeah, looking back, and I mean, I can nitpick it, and it wasn't exactly. I was shocked that I wasn't. There was some Jedi moves there. I was shocked that I really wanted to love it, and even a couple days later, I've still struggled to find that feeling for it that I really wanted to find for it. But I'm here for this one. I mean, I'll be there to watch the next one. I want to know what happens. I want to know where we're going. I'm waiting. I like I said, was disappointed that Cillian Murphy wasn't in this one. So I know he pops up. I believe he
And
pops up somewhere in the boneyard. So I'm
that
hoping.
that's how I know that the Boneyard will make a ton of money. Is if you market it and show that he's in that movie, people are gonna go see it. People love that guy ever since Oppenheimer, even
Yeah.
before that. Just like
Oh, what's yeah.
his presence in a next movie is enough to get that movie a ton of money, I think. Um,
I would think so. Are
We've been
you
watching this shit forever. Not to go the whole like, oh, I listened to Pump before it was cool, but like we've all liked him for a long time.
right.
really
Um,
since 28 days later?
yeah, I mean,
I mean,
honestly, yeah,
ultimately.
well, yeah, because like even we like watched everything he was in. There's something where he did was like Breakfast on Pluto and then Sunrise and then everything he was in. We were just like, dude, I did. I don't know if anyone. I bought the soundtrack for the original. You know what I mean? Oh,
28
Sunshine,
days.
y-
Sunshine.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
28 Days Later soundtrack. The end of the move, that was another thing where I was like, I was missing that soundtrack of the original, that score, those songs that they used, all that tension building music. Um, I think would have helped this out a lot too. And they did, and it was the last scene or one of the last scenes, they did have it, and
The
it was
scene,
cool.
the scene where he was right before the final scene, where he was arrowing the ones running at him.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
making the fish and they start coming out after him.
Is
yeah,
that where they played the song?
yes.
Yes. And it brought me back and it built it and it was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Well, that was like the
Um,
song they used in the first movie at the beginning when he's walking around the empty,
Hello.
empty Britain.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Um, fuck, that movie's so good.
listen, listen. I'm kind of with Chris that I liked it. It's just for me, it suffers from, and we've had this happen before. We've all been there before, where your expectations are just too high.
Yeah.
I saw The Dark Knight, which is one of my favorite movies, and then 3 years later, The Dark Knight Rises comes out, and it's not as good.
Yeah.
Is The Dark Knight Rises a good movie? Yes. but part of the reason I don't love The Dark Knight Rises is because it wasn't The Dark Knight. You know what I mean? That's just kind of like what this
Yeah, what you
feels
build
like
up. We've
to
had
me.
23 years of
Yeah.
building what a sequel for this could be. I think the only thing that saved me a little bit was that I decided not to watch it and just go see it. So I didn't, it was not fresh in my head. Now, being fresh in my head and hearing you guys make those connections, I'm like, yeah, that is a little weird. Yeah, that's a little weird. And I could almost shave points off of it if I really wanted to, but I just keep going back to my experience sitting in the theater watching 28 years later, and I really enjoyed myself. Like I enjoyed the scenes, I like the action, the tension that was there. That like I mentioned earlier, that causeway scene, I loved that scene when the Alpha was chasing the dad and Spike in that causeway, and Spike can't keep up, and they had just the way that they made the water look and doing those far shots with the splashing of the feet, and they're just yelling for that whole scene. I loved that scene. I thought that was outstanding. And
Now
no, I don't.
imagine that same scene with that music.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
they could have used that there.
and I don't
Oh,
know why they.
guys, come on.
And that's where it's like, okay, I want like director and writer commentary for this movie. Like
Oh, I'd be all over that.
I want to
Love to
watch
hear
this
that.
movie listening to Boyle and Garland talk about the decisions that they chose to make for this. Maybe I need to look up some like interviews that I know they're giving now, but I would love to like hear about.
Let's see if we can get him on the podcast.
Yeah, shoot them an
Send a
invite.
message.
I'd love to talk, like I said, I would love to know, like, hear about some of the evolution that they're thinking. Now, I know there's so much, they have two more movies of a story. Like, this was part one of a larger story that they know where it's going. So it's all, like I said, it's hard to judge it now.
So they're actually doing a new trilogy. We're not saying that this next one, Boneyard, is going to be. Is it Boneyard? Is that what the next one's
I think
called?
it's called that. I think it's 28 years later, The Boneyard.
Well, I think it's
Okay.
the bone. I think it's the Bone Temple.
Bone Temple. Yeah, that
That
sounds
sounds,
right.
that
I
sounds,
was like, Boneyard? All right, so Bone Temple. So Bone Temple's not considered the third one of
no,
days,
it's
Bone
years.
Temple
considered part
Part
two
Two.
of 28 years. It's called
Okay.
28 years later, The Bone Temple.
Okay.
So
And
it's
then,
28 years later is a trilogy.
okay. Okay.
So then
Supposed to be.
supposed to be, but that third one hasn't been greenlit yet. Now they may see the reaction. They may just say, "Hey, critics gave this one a 93%. It made all of its money back. Sweet, let's
Get
greenlight it." And
started. Sure.
hopefully they start three before two comes out because
I
I'm nervous
well,
about two.
I also think Danny Boyle and Alex Garland are so respected that you kind of have to let them do this. You
I
know?
hope so. I
Yeah.
want it. I want this trilogy. I'm going to be there to see the Bone Temple probably day one or opening weekend again. I'll
I
be
will
there.
too.
I will
And yeah,
too.
I love this story, so I'm gonna do it. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
will too.
Regardless of how I feel. Like I said, it's not. I don't not like this movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's just like you said, Don. Great analogy. Dark Knight, Dark Knight
yeah.
Rises. That's the perfect
Mhm.
analogy for it. Same thing. 28 days later, 28 years later. It's like it's a good movie. It's just I love the first one so much. I'm
Right.
never
It's
gonna be
hard to top.
satisfied.
Sometimes you can't top perfection.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it makes it hard. But yeah, it was like I said, all in all, I was glad I saw it. Glad I got to joke around. You guys have any other thoughts? Any other parts that we didn't talk about or really dive into?
Me or the listeners?
You,
uh,
us.
I was gonna say something, but then I started talking about the soundtrack. I can't remember what it was. It completely took away what I had in my head earlier, and
Just
now I
about
can't
this one
remember.
not having.
the music felt different in this one, but the music worked.
Mhm.
I think a lot of times in this movie, like the music was fitting. It did have a different feel than the first movie, and I'm trying not to compare it to the first movie. It's
Yeah,
hard, but there was a lot of times where the music would certain things would be happening, and like uh, I can't specify exactly when, but there were times when I was just like, okay, this is working for me.
Yeah.
So I don't think it failed at that, you know, part. I think it was all right. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again to be sure, to be for sure where those parts were.
Yeah.
But I remember just sitting there vibing with some music that was
Yeah.
going on during certain scenes. So yeah,
No, rewatching, like I said, spending yesterday watching Days and Weeks, it made me want to go watch this one again now with like all that fresh memory in my head. Like I think I did it right. I enjoyed going to see Years without Days and Weeks in my head, and now I want to watch it again with Days and Weeks in my head. And I hopefully forget about Weeks because Weeks was terrible. It was terrible.
I just
If they
remember Jeremy Renner pushing a car through fire or something.
No, he was pushing a car and then got set on fire.
Yeah, that's he dies there, right? Isn't that what he, I'm just like,
Yeah.
is
if
that
they
how this
do
goes on?
if in the sequels if they do have Jim, which we think they will, Killian Murphy, and then maybe they have Selena, they could do that too. But man, I don't know, guys. Look up on your own time. The girl who played Hannah, the daughter,
Yeah.
she ain't gonna be in the new. She ain't
No?
gonna be in another one. No, she's out of acting and became weird.
Oh,
Just
really?
try to find her on Instagram. She's not fit to be in this world. I don't think.
They could recast her. She was good in the original. She was the weakest link in the original too, though.
Yeah, 'cause she was like a kid actor. You
Yeah.
know, just like a kid who just they threw in there. But yeah, she ain't in the game anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, she ain't gonna be hold a candle to little Spike.
Hannah's dead.
Hannah
Oof.
might be dead. I think the actress who played Selena is still acting, right? She was in a lot of James Bond movies
Yeah,
and
she was
shit.
Moneypenny in the James Bond movies.
So
She's
good as
she's been in
Moneypenny.
all kinds of shit. I was looking her up.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, she's still acting, so I wouldn't be surprised if
With
they
Naomi.
Harris,
yeah.
That sounds
maybe.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize her voice. It
She's
didn't
lovely.
because the movie was so old, I didn't recognize her. Like I'm like, she sounds I heard it her voice more. And then when I looked up and saw James Bond, I was like, okay, yeah, there she. Yeah, she was Moneypenny and
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I'm here for it. But yeah, any final thoughts, you guys, before I
Go see it. We want to get a trilogy. Go see it, everybody.
yeah, make your own opinions. Don't read the trolls that I got stuck reading for the last 2 days. Make your own opinion on what you think of the movie.
Agreed.
But let us know if you did see it. What do you think about it? Hit us up, raisedageek@gmail.com. All across social medias at raisedageek. We are all over. Do it.
Over the socials, guys.
Do it. But I think
Come on, reach out.
that's going to do it for us this week. So for Raise the Geek, I'm Chris.
And I'm done.
I'm Tony.
And thanks for checking out the show.
Where geek is all we speak. Yeah.
Infected with what?